call this meeting to order. Oconee County Council, September 17th, 2019. It's right at 6 p.m. We'll begin with public comment session. And again, we'll have 4 minutes. 1 minute will come up. And when your timing's expired, I'll flip it over so I don't interrupt you. We'll start with Ms. Jean Jennings, please.
Good evening, Council. This evening I want to speak on the Sheriff's Department. I appreciate what our sheriff and his staff does arresting the criminals in the county. But I would like to also say that I appreciate all the municipal police officers that also participate in the arrest of the people. A lot of the people going through the Sheriff's Department is first arrested by the Seneca, Walhalla, Westminster, West Union, and Salem police forces. We also always want to recognize these people. About the sheriff's budget, I feel he needs to stick with his budget. Evidently, he doesn't know how to do one because he's always coming back asking for more things. I think he needs to do his job that he was voted by the people of the county to do, protecting the people. And these other projects that he thinks of, let somebody else do them. We need volunteers and things, these things, just let them do those. I feel we need our prisoners out picking up trash like the Pickens and the other counties of the state. And like I said before, like Bill Gillespie on Heat of the Night, Carol O'Connor, he was first the chief of police, then the sheriff, but that's what he always did on the show, always taking care of the people of the county. About the school resource officers, they need to be at the school, I feel like, at all times. They don't need to leave the school. They need to drive their own vehicles, and if help is needed, they can quickly call backup enforcement, and they will be there shortly. If cars are absolutely needed for them, I feel like we need to use the vehicles that are not in use for the county for them. And I hope my time is not up. If it is, well, I get to go over like the sheriff did at the last meeting. I think he had 10 minutes, and I think probably he spoke about 30. Thank you.
Ms. Henderson.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. I introduced myself this evening just as I did on Tuesday evening at the September 2nd, 2019 Council's meeting. I am Minister Paula B. Henderson, clerk of the Mount Nebo Missionary Baptist Church, Nebo Church Road, Seneca, South Carolina. I went on to ask several questions on behalf of the church regarding our church and the Oconee County Airport. Then in the Tuesday, September 10th, 2019, the Journal, I read an article entitled "In the Dark" with a question mark. Quote, "It is sad to hear a citizen say something like this. We've been hearing a lot about what's going on, the state of our church, and I said it's property," end quote. The article went on to give some of what I said, but not always quoted accurately. The final 3 paragraphs of this article begin, quote, "The relocation of Mount Nebo Church Road has been discussed publicly for at least 10 years and has been reported by this newspaper for that long." Continue the quote, "It's hard to imagine how anyone could be in the dark about such a public process that started with a runway expansion, included grant applications to the federal government, and concluded with a road relocation. Continue the quote. Oconee County has spent a decade expanding the airport. How could anyone say that they did not know this was going to happen? End quote. Therefore, since this article does much assuming about me, I would like to make some assumptions of my own. One, I'm assuming that you assume I read the Journal on a regular basis. As well, although I'm not a journalist, I assume that Journalism 101 would teach a writer to reach out to both parties that are different views or a citizen asking questions and record the facts instead of assuming what a citizen, in this case me, knows and thinks. That to me seems elementary. Seeing as my name is on the record, I am a member of Mount Nebo, and I stated publicly that I'm the church clerk. It would not have been taken much investigative ability to locate and speak to me before questioning my integrity as to what I know and what I don't know. Had this person taken the time to do the right thing, time would not have been wasted on this non-factual, simple article. My 13-year-old granddaughter defines the article well, in my opinion. She wrote it down and expanded on it by my request. Quote, unless this matter was discussed directly with the church membership, it was expected of the members to find out through information that floats around the town and reading the journal. Ultimately, this would mean that this article's point is a contradiction and ultimately invalid, end quote. Truth is, usually I would not stand to do a rebuttal at the council meeting. However, since my name is attached to the article, I am left with no option but to stand and address whomever wrote the article. Fact, as an American and a member of the Mount Nebo Church, I have the God-given right and a citizen's right to ask the council questions which brings concern to our church. Thank you. Paula B. Henderson, 330 Merritt Road, Westminster, South Carolina. The church's number, if you want to get in touch with me, 864-882-0679. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Henderson. Councilmember comments?
I have one.
Yes, sir.
I would like to thank all the new faces here tonight. It's great. See, a lot of people brought you friends. Hey, this is your meeting. This is your government. And I appreciate your comments coming to the podium, ma'am. Did a very good job on speaking. Thank you all.
I'd like to make a few comments on the first, talking about the Sheriff's Department. I appreciate what we're continuing to do on the Sheriff's Department. Being a sheriff, being a policeman, being an SRO is an extremely tough job. And if anybody sitting in this room doesn't tap their brakes when they see a police car on the side of the road, that's called a deterrent. And the reason why officers drive cars to and from work is because it's a deterrent. And a deterrent is worth its weight in gold. Having a car sitting outside the schools, seeing the guys walking around outside, whether it's directing traffic or whether it's talking to the kids after school, is something that is just an amazing sight to see. The first touch that an officer had on a kid is being positive, rather than being negative, rather than it's arresting my father or my mother or something like that. They are at the school every single day, and they pour their heart and soul into those kids, and they pour their heart and soul into the jobs, and that's what our law enforcement is doing in Oconee County. It is expensive. It's the most expensive thing that we have on our budget is public safety. And from a fire and police, we're second to none in Oconee County. And I think we have a lot to be proud of. We have a lot to stand up for. Our sheriff's doing a fine job, and I appreciate what he's doing. Has it added to our budget? Of course it has. But what we're trying to do is not only we don't want to arrest any more criminals. We want to keep them from becoming a criminal ever. And I think a lot of the programs that I'm seeing out there, that's what we're going to. That SRO program that's so expensive, that's what it is attempting to do. I hope it never does the 1% that it has to do, which is protect the kids in the case of gunfire. I hope it never happens. But they're there every single day, and there's not time to call for backup. That's the hardest part of a job as a law enforcement officer, is that time when they call for backup. So I appreciate what they do, and I stand up here today to support all of our public safety. Any other council member comments? Moment of silence, please. Thank you. Mr. Root?
Yes, sir. Pray with me if you'd like to. Well, Father, thank you for this evening that you've given us to come together. Echoing what Mr. McCall says, that you've given us this opportunity for the public to speak, for council to serve, for us and staff to serve, and help us to have that mindset and to do nothing else but have a servant's heart in what we do and carry it out. And thank you for the new faces that are here and for the old faces that return. Remind them that they're doing a valuable public service by getting up and speaking and being involved, that we need that. We need that input because we cannot do it on our own. We only see in part. I pray that we would see more fully through our neighbors, most of all through your wisdom. And I pray you'd guide this meeting. In your name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Mr. McCall, if you'll lead us in the pledge, please, sir.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. Need the approval for the September 3rd, 2019 regular meeting minutes. To have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Any changes? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Ms. Brock, please.
I'll make it brief since we do have a 4-page agenda this evening. I would like to first reiterate Mr. McCall's comments, seeing a lot of new faces here. Some future farmers of America I see, which are dear to our hearts and to our tourism economy and our agricultural culture, period. We also have some members of our own staff here, which I'm happy to see. Our new grants administrator, Ms. Compton. If you just wave, I'm not going to make you stand up, I promise. And she's been working out great so far. We've kind of kept her tucked in so she can get trained, but you will see there is a grant agreement on the agenda this evening for your consideration.
All right. We have no public hearings, and no third readings tonight. We'll begin with a second reading on ordinance 2019-20, ordinance authorizing and consenting or ratifying the assignment and assumption of an interest in that certain fee agreement dated as of March 1st, 2008, and an interest in that certain infrastructure finance agreement dated as of November 1st, 2007. Such assignment from Lyft LLC and such assumption by Lyft Technologies Incorporated, and authorizing the execution and delivery of an agreement memorializing such assignment and assumption, and consent or ratification and an amendment to the fee agreement and the infrastructure finance agreement and other matters related thereto. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. First reading on the following ordinance, 2019-22, ordinance authorizing Oconee County, South Carolina to finance and acquire certain fire trucks and related equipment in the amount not to exceed $2,300,000 to execute and deliver all documents necessary to carry out the financing and acquisition and other matters related thereto. Do I have the motion?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Ms. Brock, will you touch on the $2.3 million for the fire trucks?
Yes, sir, I sure will, and thank you so much. I do have a handout here that we have discussed in committee on more than one occasion, but just as a refresher for your memories, I wouldn't mind passing this out, and I do have some copies if this should be requested. So we have the Emergency Services Vehicle and Equipment Replacement Plan that we had discussed, I believe the last time actually, was in Mr. McCall's Law Enforcement, Health, Safety, and Welfare Committee meeting on July the 16th. This is the plan that the Fire Commission and the board has approved unanimously for the replacement of emergency services vehicle and equipment. This is the identical plan that council approved and supported last May when the budget was in process and when the establishment of the county capital vehicle equipment and vehicle replacement plan was approved. I had made a promise to council that within 6 months, we would come up with a similar plan that reflecting the ease and guaranteed funding source for the emergency services plan as well. In that, you'll look on the first page here, anything highlighted in blue is covered under the lease agreement. The lease payment agreement is equivalent to that of the purchase of one truck. By allowing us to purchase trucks that are identical in make and model, we can have less parts on the shelf, we have more consistency in service, and better training opportunities for those who are utilizing these vehicles and equipment for the purposes of providing emergency service to the citizens.
Mr. Kane, will you read this letter into record, please, if you don't mind?
Sure. September 5th, 2019, this is addressed to Ms. Amanda Brock, Oconee County Administrator. Dear Ms. Brock, both the Fire Services and Rescue Squad Advisory Commissions have reviewed the capital equipment and truck replacement schedule multiple times as it was refined over the past few months. All commissioners are in unanimous agreement that the current schedule is as accurate as can reasonably be expected. The use of occasional leases and the creation of a dedicated account receiving smooth and relatively predictable annual funding will make the yearly budget process much easier and effective for everyone involved, and the predictability of annual funding along with the recently established use of standard truck configurations will enable us to continue pursuing improved pricing while also simplifying the purchasing process. We very much appreciate the time you have invested with us to help emergency services improve our capital equipment budget and acquisition process. Sincerely, Bo Horn, Chairman, FSAC, Fabian Skelton, Vice Chairman, FSAC, Steve Zahn, Chairman, RSAC, Tammy Wilbanks, Vice Chairman, RSAC, Travis Collins, FSAC Commissioner, Jamie Brock, FSAC Commissioner, Kevin Wilbanks, FSAC Commissioner, Ronnie Williams, FSAC Commissioner, Mary Beth Hunia, RSAC Commissioner, Michael Smith, RSAC Commissioner, George Daddis, RSAC Commissioner, copy to Charlie King, Oconee County Fire Chief.
Thank you, sir. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you, Ms. Brock.
Thank you all so much, and Mr. Horn is not here, but we have an incredible asset in Mr. Bohorn. He has spent countless hours talking me through this equipment and helping me understand what each piece of these equipment do.
No first and final readings. We do have some action items. Ms. Christie Hubbard, proposal for tax year 2018. You have the floor. 2019, what did I say?
2018.
Ooh, went back in time. 2019.
2019 tax year, 20-year fiscal year. Hi, I'm Christy Hubbard, Oconee County Auditor. Thank you for allowing me to be on your agenda tonight. The first thing I'm going to do is going to let you know who does what, so we don't have any confusion as we have in some past years. It is your job to approve a millage for the operating budgets for the county and school. It is my job to set the millage for the bonds. The first thing we're going to look at is the amount of money that you approve for our budgets. It was a little over $37 million for Oconee County, and for the school district, it was a little over $67 million. I'm not going to bore you with reading out all the numbers. They're on the handouts and on the slides. The second thing we do in my office is we go through all of the real and personal assessed values for the year. We've been working on those for about 5 months. And those are numbers that come from the assessor, they come from calculations in my office, and a lot of them come from the South Carolina Department of Revenue. As you can see, the real estate assessments and rollback, aircraft, boats and motors, documented vessels, state and county businesses, and then we have manufacturing, railroad, vehicles, and other things as well. On there, they're not actually listed out, but our real estate assessment is actually up about $4 million this year. Our state businesses are up $500,000. However, our utilities are down a little over $6.8 million. The total county value of a meal is $545,613. The value of a school operating meal is $404,075, and the value of a school bond meal is $576,107. Okay, what we do from there is that, if you can see up there in green, the beginning numbers of the numbers that you actually approve for the budget. The numbers that are below that are state reimbursements that we cannot use in the calculation of a millage. So what we do is we take those amounts out to come to a net total that we have to set millage for. For the county, it's $34.8 million, and then for the schools, it's almost $47.1 million. The next thing that we need to determine is the amount of money that is needed for debt service. For the county, it's $1.4 million, and for the school, it's $17.1 million. Those numbers are for any payments that are from March 2020 to October 2020. And the ones that are due in October 2019 were in last year's millage. For the bonds this year, we're going to set the county bond millage at 3.0 and the school district millage at 31 mils. There's no change in the bond millage from the 2019 tax year. For the operational millage, I recommend for county operations 63.9, and for the set millage that was put in through the addendums of the budget, we've got emergency services 2.9, economic development 2.4, bridges and culverts 1 mil, road maintenance 2.1, and capital vehicle and equipment fund 2 mils, Tri-County Tech operations 3. For the school operations, it's going to take 116.5 mils to cover the budgets approved. The overall increase is 5.9 mils. I wanted to show you what an increase would be for taxes. So I listed a $25,000 vehicle and a $50,000 vehicle. For a $25,000 vehicle, it's a little over $8. And for a $50,000 vehicle, it's almost $17.70. I also did the same thing for homes, so you could see what the 5.9 increase, how it will impact the taxpayers. For a 6% property, which is a non-residential property, it's $35.40. For a residential property, for anyone under the age of 65, it's $18.80. And for a residential property with homestead exemption, it's $9.40. The city millages will remain the same as they were last year, as will the millage for Kiwi Fire District. This page just shows a recap of the millage, which county operations total 77.3, Tri-County Tech is 3, and the school district operations 116.5, and the bond millage set at 3 mils for the county and 31 for the school. And again, just a recap of the breakdown. And the last thing would be if you have any questions.
Does council have any questions for Ms. Hubbard? Thank you and your staff. I know it's worked tirelessly. This is the crazy time, and I know the appeal process is also going on. I appreciate all that y'all continue to do for us.
Yeah, it takes takes work from everybody on the tax swing hall, so I appreciate everything that everyone's put in as well.
All right. Any other questions? We'll start on the approval for the Oconee County. Do I have a motion to approve as recommended?
Make a motion. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right. The School District of Oconee County, do I have a motion to approve as recommended?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice evening.
The next item I have, we need a motion to postpone. This is the first year for the special traffic enforcement, per recommendation from Ms. Brock, the administrator. Do I have a motion to postpone till
So moved.
10/1/19?
So moved.
Second.
Thank
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. The next request we have is for council to commit matching funds not to exceed $30,000 for the SC Department of Agricultural Community Grant Program application to be submitted by the Foothills Agricultural Resource and Marketing Center for $100,000. Allocation of this funds is contingent upon the grant being awarded to the Farm Center. Staff's recommendation that council commit matching funds not to exceed $30,000. Do we have a motion to approve to apply for the grant?
Make the motion.
Second. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. All right. Let's see here. All right. We'll move into, actually, Mr. Reed, I don't think this will be out of order. I'd like for them to kind of talk about the grant while they're here. Does somebody want to come up? If council will allow that, I'd like to have somebody come up and just talk a little. I meant to do that after the second, but just kind of talk a little bit about the grant and what it will do. Is that okay, Mr. Reed? Fine. Okay. I'm sorry, I meant to do it after the second. We got ahead of it.
I'm not really sure what you want us to share, other than if you've been up there recently. As you know, it's a 57-acre tract of land, but a lot of the property was not necessarily usable. And if you came to last year's fair, particularly on Saturday after the Clemson ball game, you sat in traffic for an hour, both directions, because it was backed up all the way beyond Highway 11, going back towards Westminster, and all the way past Schneider Electric, going back towards Seneca. So we knew that we needed to add additional parking spaces. Also because we've had some delays with the second driveway. We had some safety issues with large trucks and trailers coming in, and we needed to be able to address those. So when we learned of these community development grants that are specifically for that infrastructure, one of the things that we knew we could do was to clear out some timberland. That would give us a little bit of financial support. But then if you look at where they clear timber, that it sort of looks like a bomb went off. So that takes a lot of dirt moving and rearranging of things to make the access simple and safe when there's a lot of children and things going on in the property. So that's why we decided to put in for it. We know that there's a good bit of money set aside for the second driveway, but if we use that to match the grant, then it's unavailable for us to use for a future grant if we find something that would help us build a structure. So this allows us to move forward with that simple infrastructure and gets it done and out of the way, and we hope to start building some buildings maybe not too long from now.
Right. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Any questions from any of y'all?
What's the date of the fair this year?
The fair yes, sir. We'd like to invite everybody, of course, to attend the fair. The fair opens Tuesday night, September the 23rd, and closes September the 28th, Saturday night about midnight. We've got a couple of exciting new events. One of them in particular, we do focus a lot on rodeo and equestrian and agricultural activities, but we're throwing in a new one this year. We're having a backhoe rodeo. So if anybody knows anybody who can operate heavy equipment who wants to get involved, I believe the last time I talked to Ms. Brock, she had said that the county would challenge any of the extra operators. So please come out and watch that and get involved and have a good time with the city and folks that are skilled in those kind of jobs.
I had to figure out that's not holding onto the bucket as the person shakes it. Didn't
No,
know.
and we have been working really diligently to come up with a really challenging course for those guys. We don't want them to breeze in there and think it's simple, so we're gonna focus on safety, but of course, but on their skills as well, so, thank you. We appreciate the vote, and please, everybody come to the fair.
Thank you, Ms. McPhail. If you could just state your name for the record, please,
Oh,
ma'am.
Gwen McPhail, the Crazy Fair Lady.
Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Council, Mr. Root, for letting that go a little bit out of order, but appreciate that.
Mr. Root is very interested in being the county's representative in the backhoe rodeo.
We'll put you on a bull too. We'll put you in both rodeos. So, I mean, we'll sell some extra tickets, so. Move on to local ATEX grants fall 2019 cycle. We're awarding $72,000. Staff's recommendation of approval of ATEX grant recommendations per the spreadsheet. We'll have a motion to approve the $72,000.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
I just have one question. I know this has already come up through the ATAX committee. I did have one thought or question on the Devil's Fork State Park. It's a state park. I was just curious why we're improving a state park. I mean, obviously they have a huge economic impact in Oconee County, but
If I may, sir, Mr. Shirley is not here. He is at a conference, actually. So I told him I would answer the questions to the best of my ability. To my knowledge, with the state funding for state park services being cut and the state park service being a part of the county and the economic impact and the only resource to access Lake Jocassee, we feel it is our obligation to assist our partners in parks to help along the way for site rehabilitation, because they endured just as much damage as we did during the torrential rains of 2018-19.
thank you.
What's site rehabilitate, what are they rehabilitating?
It's for the campsites. It could be something as simple as re-graveling and leveling out, but we've had several campsites, depending on the slope of the land, some of our own, that needed to be rehabilitated after the torrential rains we had. You know, the stabilization factor, because campers are getting larger, we're using them on a more consistent basis. Since we've converted to Reserve USA, our campsite and rentals have gone way up. I'm guessing we've hit the 150 percentile increase at this point. So it's just a stabilization factor, mostly for safety, actually.
Okay. Any other discussion? We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. All right. Next is discussion authorizing the county administrator to issue a letter to Mount Nebo Baptist Church assuring it and its members that it is not now and has never been the intent of Oconee County to condemn, take, relocate, or demolish Mount Nebo Baptist Church as a result of the Oconee Regional Airport expansion operation and otherwise. So we need a motion and a second to bring this to the floor for discussion.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, discussion?
If I may again, please, and
Ms.
thank you. This is in response to my invitation to attend the Mount Nebo Baptist Missionary Church on September the 8th. I was greeted very warmly by the congregation, by the pastor, and by the trustees. I very much enjoyed the service, but come to find that they had, whether within themselves or from outside influence, concern over the fact that there had been some discussion, or rumor rather, that the county had any intention of demolishing the church and or relocating the cemetery adjacent to their church. And just as a gesture of openness and honesty with that congregation and the trustees, I would really like for this council to approve the authorization of this letter.
Any other discussion from council?
Did she need a motion to approve the letter?
We have a motion and a second that sits out there, so do you want a motion of directive?
Yeah, I believe the motion was to discuss it, so as Mr. McCall points out, it'd be good to have a motion to authorize the county administrators to send that letter. Yes, sir.
I make such a motion.
Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do we need to vote on two to bring?
The first motion's just dead, or,
Okay,
yeah.
that's what I was just making sure.
Just discuss this one and vote on it, you'll be good.
All right, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Brown.
Thank you all, and thank you again to the Mount Nebo Baptist Church members.
All right, we have request for council to approve funding allocation to Ride to Work Ministry. Ride to Work Ministry, nonprofit incorporated, provides affordable transportation to and from work for Oconee County residents who want to work and can find a job and lack transportation. Ride to Work provides rides up to 3 months and coaches riders along the way to help them with transition. They began operations in February of 2017, have received over 200 applications and accepted over 105 people into the program. Provided over 5,000 rides and have had 46 graduates. That would mean that they have their own way to and from work after that. Have a motion and a second.
Motion to approve. Second.
All right. And I would like to say that this is just an amazing ministry to know the people that have been a part of that have used this to get back on their feet. One of the things we constantly talk about is getting people back to work, and transportation is a huge issue, as we learned tonight in Mr. McCall's earlier meeting, on not just getting to work, but getting to health care as well. So if you can't get to work, you're not going to be able to make money, and that's not going to get you back on your feet. And part of economic development is getting people to work. So I am definitely a Ride to Work fan, appreciate their board for what they have done in creating such a organization. So any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No?
If I may, Mr. Davis, just for clarity and the sake of keeping things clear for the record, even though it's provided in the backup documentation, their request was for $5,000. Thank you, sir.
So the Ride to Work Ministry was $5,000. I should have read that out loud, but anyway, so that was $5,000 is what the approval was for that from
I
council.
appreciate that. Thank you.
Let me get a re-motion on that, because I'd like to have that in there if we
Okay,
can.
I'd really appreciate that as well.
That
Thank
would
you.
be, Mr. McCall, if you'd like to restate that
So
motion,
moved.
include the $5,000.
Include the 5,000.
Mr. Hart, you still?
Second.
Okay. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. All right, and we have a request for council to approve funding allocation to Oconee Presbyterian Fund. Oconee Presbyterian Service Fund has provided emergency aid to Oconee County residents since 1981. Do I have and what was the amount requested on that one? Was that?
There was not a specific amount requested, Mr. Chairman. After going through some research of the previous allocations to the Oconee Presbyterian Service Fund, we had in the past donated $7,500, and my request would be to go up to $10,000 because of the number of additional clients and elderly clients that they are serving at this time.
And that number was within the budget that we had discussed on
Yes, sir.
direct aid, correct?
This is for the Oconee contribution, which had normally in the past, and I brought the budget book and I should have highlighted this earlier. These things had been listed individually and council had consideration to cut or not cut during the budget process. But during the budget process, a lot of the agencies that make the request did not have time to have their audit from the previous year because they often work on calendar year and not on fiscal year. So we've ensured that each one now comes to council with their previous year's audit and their statement of nonprofit standing.
We do have a motion and a second on the floor. If a member from the floor would like to amend that motion to state an amount, so we can discuss that.
I don't know that we have a motion on the floor. Do we have a motion on the floor?
We did have a
Okay.
motion and a second for discussion.
Katie doesn't have one, so that's just a motion.
Well, we had a motion and a second to bring it up for discussion. I guess what I should have done is just started with a discussion item instead of bringing it up. Okay, so we just need a motion to proceed as council so wishes, so.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
What was the amount?
The
10,000,
administrator's
10,000.
recommendation was
All right.
$10,000, but you are welcome to change that amount.
Okay, just to be clear, the motion for Mr. Kane is 10,000 for Oconee Presbyterian Fund, second by Mr. Hart. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. All right. Council committee reports, I'll probably have those up here somewhere, but let's see. Paperwork. All right. Real Estate Facilities Land Management met on September the 3rd, 2019. We had a presentation from the project manager for WK Dixon, addressed that the FAA has focused on safety, then capacity and enhancements, and talked about the runway 7 with that Nebo Church Road has been an obstruction for the runway and was a safety issue. We spoke about the Nebo Church Road connection to Harvin Acres Road for safety, and the dirt underneath Nebo Church Road will be moved to the terminal area for later airport apron expansion. 90% of the funding from the FAA, 5% of the funding from the SC Aeronautics Commission, 5% was from the taxpayers of Oconee County. Second part of the project was expected for next year. This will be the paving of the actual apron where the dirt will be going. The Mount Nebo Church Road was in violation of FAA Part 77, which is the reason for the relocation. Committee took no action at this matter. We were discussing energy efficiency study for Oconee County properties due to the high energy costs we are consuming. Ms. Brock is continuing to study to see what those companies can do for us. There's no action on this. We had no other meetings. The next meeting is November 19th, 2019 at 4:30, and it will immediately proceed or follow the Planning and Economic Development Committee meeting, which is also scheduled for 4:30. Nothing needed from that. Mr. McCall, if you'll go over law enforcement public safety from 9/3 to 2019.
All right. We met and discussed a bunch of things, possible solutions for the C&D landfill, and it was brought up by a speaker, Mr. Durham, about the Franklin County. They burn C&D waste to generate, burn off the steam for powering the turbine for electricity. Today, we found out it's not as simple. They don't want wood chips. They want chips pressed into pellets, so that's kind of sidetracked that. This is still considered renewable energy, burning C&D waste, and I'm gonna talk to these people personally and see what parameters. Maybe they will expand the parameters where they want it. We could get it in chips, maybe not. Mr. Elliott made a motion, second by Mr. Davis, voted 3-0 to direct the county administration to look into Viola Energy, and she has, and that's what the update was about the wood pellets. And Mr. Davis made a motion, seconded by Mr. Elliott, approved 3-0 to direct the county administrator to investigate the feasibility of waste and recycling plant location for our county, and of course, the ongoing education program. Then we had a discussion regarding expanded general health care in Oconee County. And I began a discussion about how people are left out, left to balance for the bill. You owe the money. The hospital doesn't do it, but they have a branch of their hospital that turns you over to a collection agency, and they put a lien on you, and under state law, they can attach certain assets. discussion continued to include Health Department building grants, Rosa Clark, Joseph Sullivan Center Nursing Program, financial aid payment plans through Prisma Health, and assisted living facilities. And all this is still ongoing in my committee. It was a consensus of committee for Mr. Davis to meet with Prisma Health and for a free clinic, Oconee County, bring information back for the next Public Safety and Law Enforcement Center meeting, and that was done today. The next meeting was today, and nothing was directed except the administrator is going to do some more research into this, and that's the end of my report.
Thank you, Mr. McCall. All right. Still searching for a architect for the Building Codes Appeal Board, so if you got a kid, let them go be an architect, because then they can come be on our Building Codes Appeal Board. So, no unfinished business.
Well, we have one, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I don't know whether this is unfinished or new business. This is the thing's been kicked around the county, and under the FERC licensing agreement, which Duke Power allows Duke Power to operate the Lakes Kiwi, also all their lakes in North Carolina and Lake Jocassee. Under the FERC licensing, it says Duke Power will supply free and unlimited access to the lakes. In other words, this business of when you go to the state park up Devil's Fork and turning people around, and the county parks or any boat ramp, it can't be done under FERC. Devil's Fork's already had their hands slapped by Charlotte for this. If you want to go to a county park or state park, not on the lake, not Oconee State Park, you can't do it there, that's state. You have the right under FERC to walk in there without paying 1 red cent. Now, you can't drive in there and park, because then you're gonna have to pay the fee. You can't, there are fees that the county has the right to collect, but the FERC says free and unlimited access. And that goes for all those little Mission Dam and all the rest of them up North Carolina, those little ponds up there they generate power on. All of them are covered under FERC. And I wanted to bring this out because I got a lot of complaints from people saying Devil's Fork was turning people around. Devil's Fork was turning people around. I called PRT, told them what was going on. I'm no longer on their Christmas card list. And I told him, I says, and he said, well, we worried about the voters. I said, I ain't worried about the voters, I'm worried about the voters, the people I represent. And I thought this is important to bring this up to let the public know you have free and unlimited access. Thank you.
Hey, Mr. Chairman, just so I could, just so it's not out there, Mr. McCall's not saying that everyone has free access to the lakes through our parks or our state parks. Obviously, there's laws in place and ordinances and regulations in place.
But you can walk in.
Perhaps, under certain circumstances, yes, the FERC agreement among the different parties does establish access rights to the water itself. I just wanted to make clear that there are a lot of provisions that apply to the access to the lakes. So no one walked away saying, I'm just going to go to any county park for free. Just want to make sure that was clear.
But the word I got from Charlotte, you have free and unlimited. Now you can't drive in there, no, but you can walk up there, and they saying, oh, we're full, we got to turn. No, you can't do it. You walk right in there.
As far as access to the water and the lakes, right?
That's correct, 100%.
Right, but of course, there's the land that adjoins and is adjacent to the lakes that is going to be a different matter.
You walk across and get to the lake.
Okay, we don't have to have that argument.
But you cannot be thinking you're going to tax county facilities for free. You can't do that now either. That's a no-no.
I think we're on the same page.
I need a motion to move into executive session for one, discuss personnel matter relating to county administration. 2, discussion regarding an economic development matter, Project Trout. 3, discussion regarding an economic development matter, Project Aztec. 4, discussion regarding an economic development matter, Project ACI. And 5, to discuss a contractual matter related to the potential purchase of property for public safety purposes. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion.
I do want the citizens to be aware that are in attendance. There is a second reading of following ordinance 2019-21, which is on there. I just want to kind of touch base that because we don't do that a lot. That is on the agenda if you'd like to stay after executive session for that. But I just wanted to make sure that they knew because we did move that.
Correct, and now we have information today. We're not going to need that. That's going to need to be postponed as well once we return, so that'll be up on October 1st.
That was the next question that I was going to ask and make sure that. All right, so don't worry about that. You don't go home if you don't want to hang out. So if you hang out, there's cookies. Got a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Reconvene, please.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
No action was taken in executive session. We do have a few motions to come out. Mr. Reed, if you will.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, if I may, regarding the second matter in executive session, this was a discussion regarding an economic development matter, Project Trout. We need a motion to direct the county administrator to negotiate and execute the memorandum of understanding as discussed.
So moved.
Second.
A motion second, any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, Mr. Root?
Mr. Chairman, regarding matter number 3, this is regarding economic development matter, Project Aztec. Again, we need a motion to direct the county administrator to negotiate and execute the term sheet as discussed.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second, any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Mr. Root?
Yes, sir. In relation to number 5, the discussion on a contractual matter related to the potential purchase of property for public safety purposes, we need a motion to direct the county administrator to negotiate for and purchase the subject property as discussed.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second, any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. All right. We do have a second reading that's on after executive session, but we do need a motion to postpone. That's ordinance 2019-21, execution delivery of a fee agreement with ACI Plastics. Do I have a motion to postpone?
I make the motion to postpone.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. Motion to adjourn, please.
Make a motion.
Second.
All in favor?